What's going on, guys? It's Chad Christopher here. Welcome back to another wood build. Today is a build I am absolutely stoked on, man. This is one of those things I see on YouTube everywhere, I see online, and I just get so jealous and inspired. So I took the leap, I ordered a bunch of epoxy stuff, I got myself some nice, beautiful hardwood, and we're making a cutting board today. Not just any cutting board, but a beautiful hardwood cutting board with an epoxy inlay. So this was my very first take at it. This was like supposed to be actually a test board. You can see I've got a couple other things laid out over here. I'm gonna do some different colors in those, but in order to get the video out quickly, it takes a couple days for this to cure. I wanted to show you guys what we're working with. So this is the finished product, man. We went with walnut for the wood, glued it up together through the epoxy and decided to go with the blue. I thought the contrast would look really nice. I'm really happy with the way it came out, man. There's a couple things I would change about it, but I'll let you guys watch the process. So let's dive in. Now to show you what I'm working with here, we've got 3 boards of walnut. So these are 1x3s here, and then this is a 1x6. This was in the cherry section at Home Depot, but the tag itself says walnut, so I'm gonna say it's walnut. Anyways, those are looking really pretty. Darken it up a little bit here so you can kind of see. They're really a nice, dark, rich brown color. And then I've also got kind of just a stack of different hardwoods. I got this kit on Amazon that came with a bunch of different ones. I don't really love it. I wouldn't recommend it. That's what we're working with. We've got a couple things laid out here, so kind of see what we're doing. We're gonna go for that epoxy look, man. It's trending, you know. I feel really inspired by it. I wanna try it. We picked up some epoxy and all that stuff. We've got enough boards here to probably build like 3 to 4 of these boards. So I'm gonna try a couple different experiments on different ones, see which one turns out the best. Size-wise, I think we're gonna go for that sweet spot of about like a 12x16-ish finished board. I think that's a really nice kind of in-between size where you can still cut big things like meat and stuff, but you can get away with, you know, small vegetables and things like that as well. It's not overly cumbersome. That's where we're at right now. So I'm gonna go ahead, start measuring these, cutting these, getting some straight lines on all the edges, and we'll go from there. First up, we need us some jams.
But like I say, man, always said it. It's not about the destination.
So I want to take a minute to explain what I'm doing here. So one of the most important things I've found is that we need us a straight line here. Like this edge, although this is like surfaced on 2 sides boards, we've still got not a perfectly straight edge here. So if I put that not perfectly straight edge here up against the table saw fence, it cuts along that uneven line and makes this uneven. So we need one dead straight one to make all our other cuts off of. So what I've done is I know that from this edge of the circular saw to the blade is 1 1/4 inches. So I put a line, so I went 1 1/4 and then I added an 1/8. So I'm gonna take an 1/8 off of this. And then I put a line there, it's kind of hard to see. But then I'm gonna clamp this piece of 80/20 metal, which is extremely straight and rigid. I'm gonna clamp that down, and then I'm gonna put my saw right up there, and I'm just gonna follow that edge and take an 1/8 off, so I have a dead straight cut, and then we can do the rest on those 2 saws. But we need one straight line to make those other cuts straight in reference. We've got a, you know, a pretty dang straight line here to work from.
The only one to blame. I ain't picky, I'm just real specific. I want nothing less than
terrific. All right, so we've got 2 pretty close to perfect edges on all of these. You can see that these are the exact same size. So if we want to do something like that design or something, you know, they're symmetrical. Now I'm going to use the chop saw, the miter over there, just to get these straight. Now that these are relatively straight, I can put these up against the fence. I can cut these down to size, and then we can move on.
Introverted, I just flirt with the music. Small circles, how I choose it. Stay away from squares, they the one that look like a L7. I've been doing this since I was...
Okay, so we have got pretty dang straight lines here, pretty dang straight boards. So now comes the fun part. We just gotta lay them out however we want. Like I said, we're gonna make 3 probably with epoxy and then 1 without epoxy with these other hardwoods. These are like full-on inch thick. I think these are 3/4 inch thick. So I didn't really want to mix them because then you have to plane off a 1/4 inch. That's why I'm doing them separately. There are tons of videos on these and people do them in all sorts of different ways. I'm doing it in a honestly pretty simple way. Since these are my first ones, you know, I want to see, number one, if I can do it. Number two, what kind of works out best. That's why I want to do a couple of them and try different things. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of play around with them, see what kind of design I like. I guess we're moving on to epoxy already. Is that real? Jeez. All right, fam, this is what we're working with. So this is one. So we're gonna fill these with epoxy. I'm thinking maybe like a blue turquoise, and then I'm also gonna fill these in with matching epoxy. So I think that'll look really nice. I feel good about this design. This one we're going with a little bit bigger guy. So we gotta glue these 3 pieces up. And then again, we're gonna go with some epoxy and then fill those with epoxy. I'm not sure what color on these, but we'll probably mix up the color on all of these. And then finally, this one, we're just gonna cut this end off right here. And then we've got a nice simple third one with some epoxy there. So that's it for the walnut ones. This random hardwood, look how ugly this stuff is. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but that's like green. Like, these boards are hideous. So I just grabbed a couple random ones, threw them together. We'll put this one together, but I mean, my goodness, is that ugly. Especially after looking at these gorgeous things.
Where I came from and where I'm going. But like I say, man, always said it. It's not about the destination. It's all about the journey. It's all about the journey, baby. Ain't nothing changed but the weather.
All right, so we're just getting to the epoxy section. Now, we finished up the board that you actually saw like at the beginning of this video. So I learned some things, and here's what we're doing for these next pours for the next 3 boards. So this is the form that we built that's gonna contain the epoxy. So I put a beginning and end on each side. I used this, it's almost like mailing tape. It came with the epoxy kit. It's just like a hard plastic kind of thing that the epoxy won't stick to. So I put the tape on the base here so it won't stick to the bottom. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna line up each of these in between these 2 boards that I have. I just have these boards screwed down into the base, and then again, I have them taped pretty much all the way around, and then tape going from the base to the walls themselves. So no epoxy can really get anywhere except right here. I made 3 forms here for each one, and we'll measure them and make sure they're all exactly what we want before we actually pour. Okay, so now you can see sort of how the boards are fitting within those forms. Again, we've got walls screwed down, tape going across everything. Now I've also got this hot glue gun that the epoxy kit came with. I'm gonna run that hot glue gun along all the seams of these as well as the seams of these. So once again, it just it continues to seal everything because that epoxy will get wherever you let it. The other thing I noticed is like the board, if there's any room between the board and the bottom, that epoxy will seep underneath it. So wherever possible, it's kind of difficult with this setup, but wherever possible, I'm gonna clamp things down as much as possible. So we're gonna get clamped, and then we're gonna start mixing some epoxy.
Choose it. Stay away from squares. They the one that look like a L7. I've been doing this since I was...
Okay, so I should have done this before, but I've got everything like hot glued and taped into place now. So just grab like a small drill bit, and then we're just gonna drill like 2 or 3 holes into each side of all of these openings. And what that's gonna do is when we put the resin in, it's gonna allow the resin to like seep into those holes and essentially create dowels. So it's like, you know, locked in there a little bit better than if it was just on the edges themselves. Okay, so next we're gonna just take some clear epoxy. I mixed it with the hardener already. And we're just gonna brush it on these edges on a really thin coat and seal the edges. There's a lot of mixed opinions on whether this is good or not. I think that it's gonna work, especially with these dowel holes that we drilled. Basically what you're doing is you're sealing the pores of the wood so that less air can come out when you pour the full epoxy in. And then when that air comes out into the epoxy, it can create bubbles. So this just helps to combat some of the bubbles. And I did it on the other one and it seemed to work well. So yeah, all I'm doing is just, like I said, taking this epoxy, gonna put a really thin coat on all of these inside edges. So I'm using the Total Boat epoxy. Like I said, I ordered up the starter kit, so it kind of came with everything you need. It's a 2-to-1, so basically it's nice that it comes with these pumps. You just put 1 pump to 1 pump, calculates everything for you. They're pretty serious about making sure that it's mixed well enough. So they say just sit here and mix for like literally 2 to 3 full minutes, and then you have to obviously make sure that your mixture is right. but they say multiple times to really make sure that you're mixing it enough. So I'm kind of going overboard here on the mixing. And then once you're all mixed up, you can throw some of that pigment in, and then we'll start pouring. All right, so we use some of the Battleship Gray and just a touch of mahogany in this one. Let's go ahead and pour that in there. That's looking pretty cool. Now I don't really I want to stay, you know, below the surface for sure on this one. Because we rounded it, I don't want it to run wild. All right, so this is just straight copper.
Shotgun riders too biased, they all liars. I should get an A for effort, I'm too tired, but I'm never giving up, that's why I'm kinda admired. Role model, like it or not, I gotta play it.
So this is a heat gun that came in that kit, and it just says wave it, you know, like 6 inches above or so. You're just trying to bring all the bubbles up to the top here. I think that's looking pretty good, pretty clean.
Bad news, which one you want first? Either way you pick, the bad still gonna hurt you the worst. I never got the bask in the fruits of the labor, and I never got the cash from that dude from the label. I'm just thinking back.
Okay, so this is what we're working with. This is the top here. The side, we've definitely got some, and then the back side, yeah, we had a lot of spill there, but this is pretty rock solid. It's been about, I don't know, a day and a half or so. I've got this set to just a 32nd of an inch. I'm gonna try and see if I can take off this top layer of epoxy here. We're getting really close. I think one more pass. All right, now that I'm covered in shards of epoxy, you can see it did beautifully. It got it all off. Everything is straight and flat. So now we just need to plane off the actual wood here. And again, we probably got a couple passes worth of that. So let's get going. Covered in dust, but I think we got the thing looking pretty good. So check it out here. This is about what we're working with on the top anyways. You can see the glue line is perfect. Really excited about that. The underside had a little bit of separation there, but it's not awful. The epoxy got, you know, a little fogged up from the planer, which I don't think is a big deal. We just need to sand this back down to pretty. And then we're gonna round these corners. We ended up losing quite a bit of width on it. I'd say the thing is, I don't know, like 1/2 inch at this point. Not a big deal, but I wish it was a little bit thicker. So we're gonna sand this thing. We might try and round these corners a touch. Throw some butcher's block conditioner, and we got a finished cutting board. All right, one step I forgot to mention is, you know, we've still got these sides that are pretty rough. This thing isn't perfectly square. We've got the epoxy kind of coming out a little bit. So I'm just gonna take on the table saw here, and I'm just gonna cut off all 4 of these edges, make it a little bit straighter all around.
Shotgun riders too biased, they all liars. I should get an A for effort, I'm too tired, but I'm never giving up, that's why I'm kinda admired. Role model, like it or not, I gotta.
Okay, so last step here is I'm gonna take my router. I've got an 1/8 inch round over bit since this thing is so little. And I'm just gonna try and round over the edges here. And hopefully it looks okay, because this is my first time ever using this router. But I'm excited to finally put it to use with those bits that I got.
You the worst. I never got the bass from the fruits of the labor, and I never got the cash from that dude from the label. I'm just thinking back.
Okay guys, so here we are at the final stage. I went and I picked up some of this cutting board oil from Home Depot. It was $10. If you read the back, it essentially says that it is pure USP food grade mineral oil that rejuvenates wood and will prevent drying and cracking and will not go rancid. So, yeah, we're gonna make all this nice and sealed and food safe. So, okay, here we go. Oh, mama. Just look at that come to life.
I'd rather be hated for being one of the realest than get a lot of love for these overrated appearance. I can stand on skill alone, but I'm a package deal. I can write the whole song and rap for real. I got my head in the clouds.
Woo-wee. That looks good. Well, here it is, the finished product. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't have much hope that this board was gonna turn out. So like I said, this was the first board because I wanted to test out all the epoxy and essentially the entire process. I'm stoked on the way it came out, man. I'm extremely happy with it. As you can see, we've got the other ones laid out here. We're gonna try some different color combos with it. All in all, dude, this one turned out great. A couple things I did learn, like with the epoxy right here, as you can see, it sort of bubbled and kind of gathered down here. I used this form, and this was sort of the base of it. You can tell it's not very flat. So I think it ended up sitting a little bit crooked like this. All that epoxy ran to this side, and that's kind of what this is about. So for the next ones, I'll definitely just keep it on a more level surface. We got a couple bubbles in here, not the worst thing in the world, but you know, I'd like to get rid of those next time as well. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, everything is flush right here. The glue up worked extremely well. Taking the route around the edges gave it a nice finished feel and look. I don't know if I mentioned or not, but the wood is walnut. I got it from Home Depot. It was kind of pricey, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm extremely happy with the way it turned out. Once I threw that butcher's block oil on here, it looked absolutely gorgeous. The epoxy kit turned out really nice. If you guys wanna see that review on the epoxy kit and see if it's right for you, let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to do something on that. I'm stoked on it. I hope you guys are too. If you have any questions or anything, leave them down in the comments below. If you are local and wanna pick one of these up, hit your boy up. I can make you a custom one. I think that'd be really cool, as you know, Christmas gifts and things like that. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and I'll see you soon for some more woodworking builds. Peace out.